Hello everyone and welcome back to Age of Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar. So to start with a bit of channel news, I decided to stop recording all my videos on my iPhone 6, which to be honest is getting to the end of its life now and the microphone in it has not been very good. So I thought to treat the channel a little bit, got a computer, also bought a headset as well to do all my recordings on. So hopefully the sound quality will be a bit better going forward as the channel hopefully continues to grow. So to start with, in this video, which is basically going to be just a hobby and chat, talking about the new edition, of course, of Age of Sigmar that came out this weekend. The reason I haven't done loads of videos lately over the last couple of weeks covering all the little bits of news that have came out coming up to this big release is purely because there was just too much news coming out for myself to cover. So I, excuse me for that a little bit, just because every time I would make a video, it would just get outdated by even more news that's came out from Games Workshop. I did some really enjoyable videos with Twin Coot, where I think we both did our best to cover all the news that was coming out, but even those shortly got outdated. So that's why I thought we'd leave it off a little bit, just because there was too much news coming out, which is a good thing. But however, I ramble on. Anyway, so what I decided to do is I'm not going to do any reviews on Nighthaunt units or anything like that, not at least until the Battle Tome comes out, because I'd be lying to you if I said I could give you tactics on how certain units work within a Nighthaunt Allegiance, because you really need the Battle Tome. You need to see what the Allegiance abilities are. You need to see what the command traits are, what the artifacts are. And yes, we have been given clues of what certain ones are, but you don't know how you can expand on that until you have the Battle Tome in your hands. So I'm going to wait until the Battle Tome comes out. And I decided to start off the new edition with basically just telling you what I pre-ordered last weekend and what I started on this week. And I probably will go through some rule videos and stuff like that as well going into the future of the new edition. But for today's video, it's basically just going to be reviewing the new edition a bit of a whole and telling you my verdict if I think the Soul Wars box set and the General's Handbook 2018 are worth it. So to start off, after that long introduction, I'll be talking about the Soul Wars box set, which of course includes the core rulebook. You've got the Start Here guide, I believe there is. You've got a little storybook in it as well, basically telling you what battle it's meant to be representing. And then you've also got, I think, the first chapter of a Soul Wars novel book that has came out. So they're the books you get in it, but obviously what people are excited for, including myself, are the models that have came out. So to start off with, obviously the Nighthaunt, because we'll be leaving the Stormcast end because they're the Stormcast. The Nighthaunt side has 33 Nighthaunt miniatures, and of course they are push fit, but to be honest, there are arguments against push fit, and yes, it does limit conversion potential, but for me personally, especially my situation at the moment and for the long lasting future as well, time will be very limited, so push fit for me is great, just because work commitments and stuff. So push fit for me is definitely a good idea. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who agree, and it just makes them a bit more enjoyable to build. And yeah, it does limit conversion potential, but I'm sure there's going to be separate multi-part kits that you can use for your conversion ideas. Anyway, so let's get on to the models you get. So of course you get the Night of Shrouds on Ethereal Steed. You also get a Lord Executioner, a Guardian of Souls, a Spirit Torment, 4 Grimghast Reapers, 5 Glaive Wrath Reapers, and a 20-man strong unit of Chain Strap Hordes. So I'm sure you guys all know what models they are, because they have been basically teasing them to us for ages. So we then inevitably move on to the Stormcast Eternal side, which only has 19 push-fit Stormcast Eternal miniatures. However, obviously Stormcast Eternals tend to be a bit bigger than your average, humanoid model. So we have a Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger. We have a Knight Incantor. We also have 3 Evocators. You have a unit of 5 Castigators and 8 Segretors and a Celestar Ballista. So apologies there, it's a little bit hard to try and say all these names after each other because they do all sound a little bit similar, and Stormcast names do drive me around the bend. So they're the miniatures. I can go into great detail about them, but you all know what they are. They're all really nice in their own right. I'm sure many of you have this box set as well, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. We then move on to the books. Like I said, there's like a series of books you get in this, but you get the Start Here book, which is basically just an 8-page booklet telling you, if you're very, very new to the hobby, it is a nice addition because it just tells you how to collect your miniatures, your models, and then how to build them, how to paint them, and then how to play with them. It's a very summarized guide to it, but it's quite nice for people who are very new to the hobby. For those who have been doing it a bit longer, you'll be glad to know that there are the free 16-page cool rules in there, and like I say, they are free. However, it's quite nice to just have a booklet, and originally I was a bit like, I don't really need to read through this, but however, there have been quite a few little tweaks to the rules within this booklet, as it did used to be just 4 pages. So that's something I might look to do. My next video on is basically just going over that 6-page booklet and just pointing out what has changed, just in case anything's slipped in anyone's mind, and just basically to make sure we're all on the right page, because yeah, the basic rules are still the same, but there have been quite a few tweaks that it's good to know, especially because you don't want any confusion in games, or you don't want to make any mistakes and your opponent to think that you're doing it on purpose, just to avoid those awkward situations. Okay, and then we move on to, like I say, there's like a chapter book in it, which is basically the first chapter of a novel that's coming out, and then you have the big 320-page hardback book, which of course are basically the core rules again, but in more detail. And the book is absolutely incredible from what I've seen so far, just because I've only had a quick read through this book, but for me, to be honest, I haven't really looked at the rules much in it, which that's what it's meant to be for. But for me, it's all about the lore in this book. It really brings these realms to life in so much detail. It just brings the hobby to life for me, especially when it tells you things about how like an ordinary citizen lives in each individual realm, how the magic works in every realm, more in-depth details on what the Age of Myth was like, because it is very abstract, the Age of Myth, but it used to be incredibly abstract to the point that it did annoy me because there was like no details on it, nothing was nailed down. But now you have a bit more things that are mapped out, which is really nice. I do really love the maps as well that are in this book. I'm just basically listing the things that come off the top of my head about this book, which I like. But like I said, I finally had a quick read through it. But it's just a lovely book, and the artwork in it is just beautiful. And like I say, it's 320 pages. Will I read all 320 pages? The quick answer is no. The reason behind that is because I don't really want to read 320 pages of rules. But it's not all rules. It's about narrative and lore. And to be honest, I'll sooner read the narrative and lore bits rather than the rules, because I'm sure I'll be corrected about this because I'm probably wrong. But I imagine this book is more for more precise meaning on the rules you will have in the 16-page rule book. It will be for the things like the odd situations when this happens and that happens, what should you do? The answer will be in that book. That's how I imagine it will be used for, as a reference book rather than a book that you need to carry. Well, you will need to carry it around with you, but a book that you will need to have open the whole time just to double check everything that you're doing. I don't think that will be the case for that book, which will be nice. So you're not going back to Warhammer Fantasy where you're glued to that book and you can't take your eyes off it. It's the same of what Warhammer 40k used to be like for 8th edition. So yeah, I think it'll be a reference book, but like I say, just for the narrative and the artwork, it's really nice to get. And if it's included in this box set, fantastic. So I think it is £35 on its own, £30 on its own, something like that. So yeah, it's I was gonna say it's a great addition to the box because, you know, it is like a third of its what makes up its price. And that basically concludes the box. Yeah, you do get a few War Scroll cards in it. You do also get some dice like you normally do in these big box sets, and then a very, very, very thin, cheap ruler, which, you know, it's see-through. You'll probably get some use out of it. And yeah, that's the box. I fully recommend it. I say that, and I have just read through, like I say, a bit through the core rule book, had a quick read through it. I've read some of the core rules and some of the narrative and stuff you have in the other little books you get with it. And I have only built one model in this, but that's the first model I have built and painted for a very, very long time. And it was the Night of Shrouds, which I'll put a few pictures in the video for you now to see. And this will be the colour scheme I'm going for. So it's a red and grey colour scheme rather than the traditional sort of greeny turquoise colour with the sort of grey black rose, purely because this is how I've always painted my Nighthaunt for the last 2 years. Haven't painted much Nighthaunt, but I mean mainly things on the spirits coming off the Mortarks and stuff like that. This is how I've always done it, and I don't like painting my stuff like everyone else. That's not me saying that I can paint better than everyone else, because that's the one thing I'm sure I can't paint better than everyone else. But I just like to paint things differently, because I know the Nighthaunts are now really, really popular in my local store, and a lot of people paint them in the traditional scheme. I want mine to stand out a little bit, so hopefully I'm going to achieve that as throughout the painting goes with the Nighthaunt. But I'm happy with my first tester model, and this will be it going forward. And I will show you my Nighthaunt as I paint them up and stuff, and I'll showcase them too, because I think it'll be a bit interesting to share my hobby, especially how I haven't been able to do much hobby lately. Right, so is this Soul Wars box set good value? In my own honest opinion, I can say it is good value because it's £95. The core rulebook separately is £35. So if you take that out of this Soul Wars box, you're paying £60 for 52 models, which are really, really nice models as well, and obviously all new. And so value-wise, money-wise, you're definitely getting your value there. And then if you also look at it as, would I recommend this to a new player who's just getting into Age of Sigmar, I can safely say yes. Obviously, if they're interested in the Stormcast Eternals or the Nighthaunt or Death in general, then yes, of course. If you're not after any of those arms, you really don't like them and you don't want to sell them on, then there are better means and ways to get into the hobby, probably through going for a Star Collecting box. But if you are interested in the Stormcast Eternals or Nighthaunt, it's definitely really good for you. If, like I say, you are going to get into the hobby and you haven't done this before, because you will get the core rulebook. And there's also things like Reagan instructions in this box to how to build the models. The models are very nice and easy to build. The Night of Shroud, I think he was mainly like 3 big pieces and a couple of small pieces to glue together to build him, and I built him in super quick time, and it usually takes me a while to build models. So yeah, that's another good thing for new players. And like I say, you get the core rulebook in it as well. You also get a little booklet of the basic rules as well along with it. So really, after all this, the only next thing you need to get for gameplay reasons is the General's Handbook 2018, which is £20. So it's definitely a good start. And to be honest, you wouldn't need to get the General's Handbook straight away if you're brand new to this. So you build up the models, you play the basic rules first, and the General's Handbook is really for match play. Yes, it does have like narrative games in there as well, and open play rules and all those sorts of things in the General's Handbook, but there's also things like that in the core book as well. So it's not essential if you're brand new to this. Okay, so let's say that you've been playing Age of Sigmar since the start. you've been kind of excited about the new edition, that sort of thing, like myself, and you're wondering, do you really need this box set? Simple thing is, again, if you have a Stormcast Eternal Army or Nighthaunt Army or Death Army in general, I would just say yeah, because the models are just really, really good, and you are going to want that core rulebook. But if you don't really want the models, I would say it's still worth getting the box. As you get the core rulebook, it's going to cost you it's going to cost you £35, and then all that means is you need to make £60 back on with these models, and you could easily do that on things such as eBay and buy and swap groups on Facebook. So yeah, I can honestly recommend this box for most hobbyists out there who play Warhammer Age of Sigmar, because there's something in there for everyone. So yeah, I think it's really good value. You probably knew this as well before listening, but I just wanted to give you my opinions, as I think this is the best box set for a while. I think it is better than the original Age of Sigmar box set, which to be honest was really good for its time, and it's still good now, but I think this box does outdo it. Yes, this box is more expensive, but you're getting more for your money, in my opinion. Okay, so then we move on to the General's Handbook 2018. Now, like I said, for me, I had to get this book because I like reading up about the rules and all those sorts of things, because I've got every other General's Handbook, and I do tend to go to tournaments. What I thought about this book, I have only had a quick read through it, as if I was to have a really good read through it, this video will not be coming out for a long time. So with my quick read through it, I thought it was quite standard for a General's Handbook. Nothing amazingly new that we haven't seen in it from what we've seen before, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like an update to the previous rules and the points and so on. And a little thing that I thought was disappointed me is that I was looking through all the allegiance abilities, and a lot of them seem to have not changed from the General's Handbook 2017, like the artifacts and the battle traits and command traits and so on. Very much seem to be the same. I'm not saying they're all the same, but the ones that I read were, because I was looking into Flesh Eater Courts specifically. And when I say it's disappointing they haven't changed, I suppose it's one of those things where if it was absolutely fine, there's no need for it to change. If it's not broken, don't try and fix it. So that's fair enough. But I'm just, apart from the updated points and the new rules to summoning you do get in the General's Handbook 2018, which is one of the big selling points for it, I'm not really too sure what else you're getting at it from the it's different from the 2017 one. I think there are a few changes in wordings and all that when it comes to certain abilities and stuff. So yeah, with that book, it's definitely obviously worth getting. If you're a tournament goer and all those sorts of things, you know this already, you're gonna have to get the book. Nothing wrong with it, anything like that. It's just, I think the problem for me is that I read through the core rule book and then I read the General's Handbook. So I was almost like, there's this huge book with all these lovely artwork and all that sort of thing in it, and it was really, really sort of, you could dive into it really, really easily. And then you had the General's Handbook, which obviously was a fraction of the size of the core rule book, but you mainly get it for obviously the updated points costs. I believe it has the rules of summoning there for the individual armies. I'm pretty sure it does. I don't think that was in the core rule book. So yeah, it is essential. It is a really good book. It's a strange one really, because you're used to that to be in the Age of Sigmar rulebook, and now there's a new one out there that just dwarfs it. So I think this is going to be like in 40k we have chapter approved, which is like an annual book that will come out just updating points costs and rules and so on, and then you have the main 40k core rule book that will stay there until the next edition. So I imagine that's going to be exactly the same with the Age of Sigmar one, where this big core book will be here for a while, and then the general handbooks, like they're titled by the year, they'll come out annually. Actually, to be fair, I am painting this in a bad light. The General's Handbook 2018 is worth it because, like I say, you do get your updated points, you get new rules of summoning, and of course you get lots of new battle plans for open play, narrative play, and a match play. I think, to be fair, it's just because it's been spoiled with the core rulebook. The General's Handbook 2018 does what it says on the tin. It's a General's Handbook. It adds some new things in there, like the summoning abilities. It's obviously got updated rules and updated points, and yeah, it's definitely worth getting. It's definitely worth having a read through, especially in the point section, because I noticed some of the battalions have actually came down in points. The Deadwatch Battalion, which is a Flesh-Eater Court one, which is basically a crit flare battalion. I've used to running that a lot, and I believe it used to be 210 points. It went up quite high, and now that's came down to 170 points. So that's made me quite excited to relook over that army list I had, as I have just got an extra 40 points out of it. So for me, you know, it's a nice little thing I saw when I quickly looked through it. Right, okay, so those were the things I got. I was tempted to obviously get the Malign Sorcery that's also came out this weekend. However, like I say, at the moment and for the future, work is going to be quite demanding, and I just won't have the time to do it. It's going to take me a long time to paint up this Soul Wars box set, so there was no point me getting the Malign Sorcery box set as well, because yes, the spells do look fantastic, and I have used them in game. There was a demo in the store, and I did play around with them, and they are really powerful, and they will definitely change games of Age of Sigmar. But there's no point in me getting it because I just won't have time to build or paint it. But if you guys do have you know, time for the hobby and stuff, which, you know, obviously I always encourage, they will definitely add lots of fun to your games. Like, I've only had one game using them, and it was a very small game as well. Everyone just had a wizard, and that was enough to see how much of a difference this is going to bring to games in a positive way. So there was that, and then that was pretty much it that went on pre-order. Like I said, you also had like a novel that came out as well, which again, I haven't read too many novels for Age of Sigmar, but the ones that I have read are really nice, and they do add that extra depth to the lore and help you, like, you know, theme your armies, build your armies, and, you know, just really build character to it. So if you're into that, obviously you'll know about it more than I will do, but it looks like a good read. And then that mainly brings us into what's coming out next week. So for pre-order, we of course have the Battle Tomes coming out. So that is the one for the Nighthaunts, and then the new one for Stormcast Eternals, because this will be their 4th Battle Tome since the start of Age of Sigmar. So, you know, they will probably need a 5th one round about the end of the summer as well, just to round up to a nice number. Anyway, so like I say, we've got the 2 Battle Tomes that, you know, enough said about Battle Tomes. They add so much more to the army. If you really are into an army, or even if you slightly like the army, you'll buy it. It'll enhance your rules for when you play them on a tabletop. It also has all the lore about them in there, and things like Painting of Ice and stuff like that. You guys all know what Battle Tomes are by now. They're essentially the army book, the codex, and they're definitely worth it in my honest opinion, again. So, apart from the Battle Tomes, we also have the some Nighthaunt releases. So we have the Endless Spells coming out for the Nighthaunt, which is 3 spells. I'm not too sure what they do, haven't really had time to look them up, but I'm sure you guys will, and if you do, let me know what it is in the comments. And looking at them now, they do look pretty spooky, and the size of that scythe looks like it can tear through anything. And then we also bring on to things that are slightly more exciting. We have the Grimghast Reapers, which is essentially like the Grimghast Reapers you get in the Soul Wars box set. However, you will get 10 of them in this multi part kit that will be coming out, and just how dynamic the models are as well just look absolutely fantastic. I will, when I eventually get around to building the Soul Wars box set completely, I will definitely be adding some of these to my army. You then also have the Warlock Janos, I believe that's pronounced, which, yeah, just look really nice. I'm really, as you can probably tell, into the Nighthaunt look of the sort of, you know, wispy ghosts, and they do look very fragile, but after building the Night of Shrouds, yeah, he is fragile, but he's not as fragile as you would think. They can support themselves quite nicely. So yeah, I'll be getting those as well at some point. You do also have the Hex Rays that have been rebased, but Hex Rays are alright. To be honest, I actually got 10 to build as well on Sprue, so they're being rebased. That's about it. They've been rebased for a while actually in the start collecting boxes of Skeleton Horde, but they haven't been rebased in their own separate box, I presume. And then you also have the slightly bigger model for the Nighthaunt that everyone's been talking about, the new Mortarch, which is Lady Olinda, the Mortarch of Grief. Now, I hope it is pronounced Olinda. If it's not, I have no idea how else you would pronounce that name. And yes, she looks nice. I was quite surprised at her price level of £27.50. But I don't think she's going to be the biggest of models. I mean, there's a picture of her next to some Chainrasp Horde models, and yeah, she's not that big. I mean, she's probably, guessing from this picture, it's just from the Games Workshop website, 2, potentially 3 Chainrasp Horde models on top of each other sort of size. She is quite small, so £27.50 is probably a fair price for her. In terms of the model, I do like her. I just personally, I think the 2 like Banshees alongside her, they're a bit too big in my personal preference in how it looks. I think it would have been nicer if they were a bit smaller, because the size they are, it means they're sort of their torso and they're sort of you know, the head and stuff sort of the same size as the Mortarch, which doesn't make the Mortarch lack of size situation even better, shall we say. The model's nice. I do like the veil. I said this as well when the trailer for Soul Wars came out. I like it that the lack of facial features, I think that makes it a lot more sinister looking, and, you know, a lot more, you know, spooky, if you will. So yeah, it's a nice model, and if it was going to be about £50 or something, and maybe a bit bigger and that sort of thing, I wouldn't have probably got it desperately anyway. But as it's £27.50, I can easily see myself picking this up in the next month or so. So yeah, you've got that, and that's pretty much it for the Nighthaunt release. You do obviously have the War Scroll cards coming out, and when I mean it for its release, I mean for this week, because obviously there's a lot more to come, which I'm sure you guys already know about. You also have the Nighthaunt dice and the Stormcast dice. You know, they're just dice that come out for the armies. A little bit disappointed on the Nighthaunt dice that it's just an hourglass for the 6. I know that seems to be a part of their theme, like an hourglass and time and all that sort of. That seems to be their bag, but it would have been nice, I don't know, if it was a ghost or something on the 6. I don't know. So you've got that, and then you've also obviously got the spells for the Stormcast, and then you've got the a new Stormcast model coming out, which is the Stormcast Eternals Lord Exorcist. Probably pronouncing that wrong as well, but Exorcist is what I'm going to call him. I know that's not how it's pronounced, but that's how I'm going to call it, because I don't want to call it the Exochrist. Yeah. He's not my favourite looking model, to be honest. This is the first time sort of looking at him now. He looks like he's standing a bit too tall, a bit too statue-like, but I imagine he is one of the new wizards, I'm imagining, for the Stormcast. Yeah, I can imagine he's one of the new wizards. To be honest, apologies about my lack of knowledge of this guy. And like the rules, the endless spells, I just haven't had the time to read them. But because obviously it's just so much stuff coming, I'm trying to get on top of what's out now, not what's coming out in the future. So yeah, they are the new pre-orders we've got for this weekend, coming out next weekend. What I pre-ordered myself was the Nighthaunt Battle Tome and the Stormcast Battle Tome. I know it does. It's hard for me to accept that I have pre-ordered the Stormcast Battle Tome, but I like their new models. Yes, it does pain for me to say that as well, and you know, I'm sort of embarrassed, to be honest, to tell you that I actually like the new Stormcast models, even though I already have them pre-ordered the new Battle Tome. But the new models are really nice for them. The front cover for the Battle Tome as well just makes it look so like dark and realistic, with that shield like broken in half, and just makes it look like a war of attrition they've got, and just the grim darkness of war. I really like that. And then I pre-ordered the 2 new lots of dice, just because they're Stormcast dice. I'm gonna I've already got a Stormcast army from the Soul Wars box, so might as well get their dice. And then the Nighthaunt dice, apparently they glow in the dark, and that was a selling point for me, and that's why I bought them. And then, you know, obviously you're never going to play with them in the dark because you wouldn't be able to see the models unless they're that bright, which I really hope they're so bright it's almost like a torch, so then you can play a whole battlefield just with those dice. That would be the plan. And then that's pretty much what I pre-ordered. I did think about getting the limited edition battle tomes, as they are really nice. They've got like just looking at them, they're going to have like a really nice feel to them, and the artwork is fantastic. However, especially with the Stormcast one, it will probably get updated within a year. You know, there's probably going to be a new Stormcast battle tome coming out, so for me, paying double the price for it just be a waste of money. If you have pre-ordered it, I don't mean it as a waste of money for you guys. You know, it is a limited edition book, and we'll have a really nice feel to it, and it will be a very nice collector's item. But for me, personally, I would rather buy both the battle tomes for the price of a limited edition one. The Nighthaunt limited edition one, you're probably quite safe with, because they're probably not going to get an update for a long time after this. But like I say, I'd rather get 2 standard battle tomes for the price of a limited edition one. And then that's, like I say, that's it for the releases coming out and the pre-orders. And then I just want to show you a couple of the things that I do like, what we can see with the new edition already, and that is some of the artwork that is coming out. We'll start with the Nighthaunt. So the first one I'm going to put up is the one with the Lord Executioner making this Zeech Acolyte, wishing he had never been born, as he is about to be torn apart by the freshly slain spirits of the dead. And it's quite like a horror looking one. You've got, you know, obviously the blue spirits contrasting with the red light behind him, and it really just shows dark imagery. But one I like more than this is the photo we've got here of, I say photo, sorry, the artwork of the Nighthaunt sort of like army, almost looking like they're coming down a hill into a town, and it's just so dark and so sort of sinister and scary that it's really shows a dark side to the mortal realms. And that's probably the one on the screen now is probably my favourite Nighthaunt artwork I've seen for a while, definitely at least since the Soul Wars trailer. And then after that we have quite a typical one here, or well, I say typical, it's brand new, don't know what I'm talking about, of the Hex Knights or whatever they're going to be called. There might already be a name out there for them. If there is, please let me know. There's not too much to say. It's just like a nice one with the Nighthaunt charging from their tombs to take their revenge on the living. And then we move on to, surprisingly, my more preferred artwork that has came out. And the Nighthaunt one is lovely, don't get me wrong. They're all 3 of them are really nice. But it's the Stormcast ones, because they share the same sort of theme in the Nighthaunt, or maybe take it a little bit fairer. They show a really dark, sinister side of Age of Sigmar, which we've sort of been hinting at ever since the Age of Sigmar logo changed to a sort of like, you know, a darker, sort of not as bright theme, which has really been reflected in these pictures. So I'll start with the just one of the standard Stormcast ones. So you've got one here, it's of a female Stormcast just swinging a hammer. As you see, you've got the face paint and stuff, and I do quite like this, like I say, this new style of artwork, how it's not doesn't look like it's been so finely drawn, and it does literally look like artwork, you know. The edges aren't so clear, and it just makes it look like a lot darker and a lot more gritty, I think is the word for it. And then, so that's just like a standard one. Then moving on to the next one, almost looks like this guy is a Chaos Stormcast. I saw someone did a funny meme on Facebook for it, and it's just because I think it's because he's got no pupils for his eyes in this one. It just looks so angry, so much propelled for vengeance. It's really showing a new light to these Stormcasts, and it's almost just taking the helmets off these Stormcasts, makes you realise they're not so, you know, perfect, unscarred warriors that can't get injured. They are really battle hard and worn, and you can really see it on them. So we've got that. We've also got another one, which I presume is the wizard taking off her helmet, which shows that, you know, in this picture anyway, it looks like you can see the magical energies going through her. And then you've got this one here. This guy has been, his face so disfigured, and is he the Knight Excelsiors? I think it's pronounced they are, which are the storm host that absolutely opposes chaos. Obviously they all hate chaos, but they will butcher anyone or anything to do with Chaos, even if it's an innocent person and they think they might have the suspicion he might have had contact with someone with Chaos at any time, they will butcher him and his family and his village and anyone in that region, just to make sure the Chaos corruption does not spread. And if I was going for, well, I say if I'm going for a Storm host, which I definitely will be with my Stormcast, it's either going to be the Hallowed Knights, because they're such lovely guys, aren't they, and they're so pure at heart, or these guys, because these guys really do bring a sort of gritty, nasty feel to the Stormcast, that they're not all gleaming, in shining armor, here to save all the innocents. These guys are sort of here, they're the hard fist, they rule with an iron fist even, and they're here to get the job done. Yes, if innocents have to die, they have to die, as long as the mission succeeds, because it's for a greater cause to stop Chaos. And that's something I can really sort of, it makes me sound like a nice person, but something I can really sort of respect. They don't have the luxury of choice to be nice. They have to get the job done to stop Chaos any means necessary. And like I say, I think this is really reflecting the artwork here, how this guy's really battle worn. You can see this huge scar going down his face. And again, just going through all these Stormcast images, it all comes down to the fact that they're not wearing their helmets. You can see how they've been scarred from these battles. Of a lot of it's of attrition. They've been fighting in and out, or even when they die, they don't get to rest. They have to be reforged, and this was reflected in the Soul Wars trailer, where Sigmar was narrating over it, and he was saying that basically his apologies to these heroic warriors he plucked from their finest area, where they were going to defend their town and their families and their livelihoods from the corruption of Chaos. They were there in the middle of battle where they were going to give their lives, like I say, to save their families and friends, but they couldn't, because Sigmar stole them from their moment to be reforged into Stormcast. So because of that, they didn't have a choice. Their family died and got slaughtered while they were saved. While these, like I say, these warriors are saved and turned into Stormcast Eternals, and that's something they can never go back. They can never go back to save their families. They're forced into this endless servitude for Sigmar, and obviously it's not like portrayed as Nagash and his servants, where the servants have skeletons and all that, have no will of their own. They have to fight. They know nothing but fighting for Nagash. But these Stormcast of Sigmar, they didn't have a choice into it, and they will fight and they will die and they will be reforged, and they will fight and they will die until what's been reflected quite a lot in the lore lately, where every time they get reforged, they lose pieces of themselves to the point where it's no longer like physically they're not the same person as they used to be, but they won't, mentally they won't be the same person. They won't have the same memories. They won't have the same feelings, and it gets to the point where their humanity leaves them. That is why I think it becomes really troubling for Sigmar. So that's what I do like about the Stormcast there. That they have a lot more character than you think, and it's definitely coming out a lot more lately, and it's definitely been talked about and shown. And a video I watched on YouTube that gave me a real sort of, if you like, enthusiasm for the Stormcast, because I'm used to hating the Stormcast, but I'm actually starting to like them quite a lot now, is a video that 2+ Tough did. He's a awesome YouTube channel and stuff, where he did the lore in the Stormcast. Actually came out a while ago, to be fair, so he was sort of the talking about it before it became a popular subject, talking about how much personalities each Stormcast warrior will have. They're not just like Sigmarines and stuff. They actually have a lot more to them than that. So I suggest you to go check out that video as well if you're interested to know a bit more about the character of each individual Stormcast. And yeah, that's a bit of a ramble on about Stormcast for a moment, but I just wanted to reflect my sort of views of these artworks that are coming out and why I really like them. And then the next one is a more sort of simpler picture, which is just a city that looks at first quick glance as a Stormcast city on the ground with like a realm gate in the center of it, and then after you look at it for a few seconds, you notice that there are a sort of a human city around it on the outskirts, where you can see like the medieval buildings and houses, and it really shows that, you know, like one of those things, you know, like a picture paints a thousand words. It's like how one half lived to the other, how the Stormcast live to the ordinary mortals of the mortal realms. Yes, they protect them and stuff, but they live very much for themselves in their own part of the city, whilst what it looks like in this photo, the mortals have to live in poverty amongst themselves. And also it reflects to me that I think there's probably quite a lot of mortal warriors out there, like quite a lot of like human soldiers and so on, who will risk their lives in battle for Sigmar in a chance of hopefully being reforged into a Stormcast. I don't know if that's canon or anything, but that's just something I thought of. You know, just because if you become a Stormcast, you are immortal, you have a much better way of life. You can just see in this picture, what side of this city would you like to live in, the centre or the outskirts? And it's immortality. It's like the why people like to become vampires, because the gift of unending life, even if it has consequences, obviously like vampires stuff, you have to drink blood, you slowly you know, no longer human really, and you develop a superiority issue because, you know, you're basically just eating humans. So that's the vampires anyway. But becoming a Stormcast, you know, it sounds fantastic, but like I say, you keep on dying and fighting and dying and fighting to no end, and like I say, you lose a piece of yourself every time. It's not as glorious as it once seems. You know, it is a curse to it, but to these mortals, like you can see in this photo, they don't really see you know, losing bits of your memory and stuff too much as an issue compared to their own living conditions at this moment. All right, and then the last photo we've got here is very much a sort of more grander one and stuff. We have the Sergeant Prime followed behind him with, which looks to be a new unit for the Stormcast, because at first glance they look like prosecutors, but I think some of them are female warriors as well, and they've got different helmets as well. So it looks like a new flying unit for the Stormcast, which you know, whether they're getting a new unit, no surprise there. But to be honest, if I'm doing the Stormcast army, I'm going to stop complaining about them now. And then, so like I say, it's very nice, and like I say, it's quite bright and imposing, this picture, but it's still got quite a shaded tint to it compared to the really bright and colourful pictures what we saw in Age of Sigmar First Edition. It's very much got a dark tone to it, and it brings that grittiness through, and you can really nicely see this in the what look to be the Devotus of Sigmar down at the bottom here, which they might be Stormcast warriors, so they've got Stormcast sigils on them, but they do look like they're just humans, and if they've got Stormcast you know, symbols and stuff on them, it shows that there's no model like that so far out there. So could we see a release for Devoted to Sigmar, and that be turned into a faction of their own, or be brought into the Stormcast Eternals, or perhaps be merged into Free Peoples and that get turned less Empire-ish with the Iron Cross symbols and stuff, but more into heavily Devoted to Sigmar faction? Who knows? It's something that we're going to have to wait and see, and something quite exciting that I'm sure we'll find out throughout summer really, or, you know, if you're on the other side of the world, over the next coming months. So yeah, they're the artwork, and then the only other thing I sort of wanted to show you guys is the new photos that have came out of Nighthaunt units that I imagine will be pre-ordered over the next few weeks, potentially even next weekend. So we have got, I'll start with the first one, which is like a Grim Reaper unit, but instead of having scythes, they have swords. And looking at this unit, they look even more dynamic than the other Grim Reaper unit, and are, for me, just really bring out the sort of next tier of models that we've been seeing since, in my opinion, Daughters of Cain, Internet Deepin, sort of that sort of era. I think the model quality has really stepped up in the sort of how dynamic they can be, and look really fragile, and to an extent they are fragile, but not as fragile as you would think, because they're plastic. They're quite light, so they can support themselves quite nicely. So we've got this unit, and then going on to one of the units that I think is the most scariest I have seen are these new Banshee unit, which I thought were having had scythes or swords and stuff. I think that's actually part of their limb, these claws, and their skull faces and stuff really are the things of nightmares to me. I think this is probably ties with the Mongol for me as being the scariest unit personally, I think, in the Age of Sigmar, you know, just aesthetically. Yeah, I'll definitely be getting these, because for me, weird, the things that I find scary, like model-wise and stuff, you know, things that, like I say, you find scary, you almost respect, and the sort of terror you get from it. So yeah, I'll definitely be getting these guys and taking the army. I don't know if they're any good. I'm sure they'll be all right, but I'll definitely buy them anyway because I love the models. And then we have finally the cavalry unit that will be coming out, and I don't know if they're called Hex Knights. It might already be out on the internet what they are called, but I've been calling them Hex Knights. And someone suggested they could be like the souls of vampires, and looking at this nicer picture of them, I can definitely see where they're coming from because the size of their fangs. If they are, that would be cool, like a sort of like the souls of Blood Knights. But they might just be, you know, like Reaper Cavalry sort of thing. So it'd be good. Looks like you get 2 in a box here, judging from there's 2 in this photo. That's literally what I'm judging it from. But if that is the case, not a problem with that because they'll probably be fairly powerful. But I don't like it that they're both got their heads turned the same way. Sounds like a tiny stupid thing to complain about, but if there's only 2 poses for these models, and it's not that easy to turn their head the other way, they'll all be facing the same way, which is, you know, to their left, which, like I say, might sound like a stupid thing to whine about, and I'm not really whining, I'm just a little bit disappointed because it'll look a bit odd, won't they, if they're all like riding in a straight line, they're all looking to their left, the enemy's to the right. I don't know, that's probably just me, like I say, nitpicking and stuff, but yeah, just looks a bit funny how they're all looking to the left. Anyway, so enough about talking about pointless things, and then we move on to what you already know and you've already seen lots of pictures of, but it's a nice clear picture of why I wanted to show it, of the black coach, and just sort of reminds us of just how big this thing is going to be. As in the last picture you saw the cavalry for the Hex Knights, in this there's actually like 4 of them attached to this coach, and there's so many ghosts and spirits just floating around behind it. And what looks to be the Craven King on top of it. I don't think that is the Craven King at all, but it's just someone wearing the same sort of helmet. And yeah, it'd be very nice to have this as well. And something that's important to note is after getting the Jones Handbook and looking at the points for the Nighthaunt, there is no real beast of a model for them. Yes, they've got the Mongol, but after that it's the Black Coach. And I think the Black Coach is like 280 points, something like that. They don't have a huge, powerful, like Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon sort of model, or, you know, like a huge, big Mortarch sort of model, like a Manfred or something like that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. You know, armies don't need these really huge, powerful Death Star models, whatever you want to call them, but it's just unusual that it doesn't have one. But saying that, that means if this thing is only like 280 points and turns out to be a beast, you get a lot for your points on that one, so that's nice. So yeah, that's all we've got new coming out for the Nighthaunt. While I'm making this video, I have just noticed they're making like a mini Soul Wars box set coming out, and then even a smaller one after that, which is basically how after time with the old Age of Sigmar box set, they brought out like a medium version of that and a smaller version of that. So no surprise to see that coming out. What has like the new Banshees and stuff in it, so that's quite nice. And yeah, it's nice because like I said, I mentioned a few months back that there might be coming a new starter box coming out, and there was one and I finally got it, so it's really nice for me to get my hands on something that I only like had a rumor of coming out. So really nice that materialized literally into my hands. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. I just want to talk about in this video basically what I've been up to in the hobby and stuff. And I know I hadn't made a video for a little while, and that's purely because like I say, time is quite difficult for me to make these videos. But also if I made a video about an article that came out, it would be outdated the next day for you guys, and by the time you watch it, it might already be out of date, and you know there's more exciting news coming out, so it's just been wasted time. So I thought wait until the weekend. To be honest, it's the end of the weekend now. It's sort of getting quite late today, and I thought if I don't make a video now, I'm never going to make one this weekend, and then it would have to be until next weekend. So I just wanted to show you guys that I am still making videos and all that sort of thing. I've just had to wait for several reasons. So I apologise, this video has just been a bit of a ramble and that sort of thing, because I have just basically been recording it straight. and basically just talking about things that have come to mind and basically my experiences and of the new edition that's came out and the things I've got already. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this video. What I will plan to do in the future, I think the next video I'll do is just a video, like I said, on the core rules, the 16-page booklet, pointing out the things that have changed, just so if there's anything you guys have missed because you've read through it and you haven't seen it, or you just can't be fucked to read it because you think you already know how to play. There might be a couple of things that, you know, that are helping. Oh, I didn't realize that's changed, so that's good that I know that now. And again, I'll probably do a video on it talking about everything that's changed, and I'll probably miss a few things out. So if you guys put it in the comments of that video, we will learn. And then after that, I'll probably do one on the Janos handbook maybe, or the core rulebook, or by that time there'll probably be the Nighthaunt battle time come out, and I'll probably do a lore video on the Nighthaunt or something, because I haven't done the lore video for a while, and it would be quite nice to do one. So again, I thank you guys very much for watching this video, which is basically just me talking about things that have come top of my head. I'm quite excited about the new releases, you guys have probably noticed, and I just wanted to make a video just share that with you guys. So if you could please let me know down in the comments if you're excited with the release, if it's everything you thought would be, you're really happy about it, or there's a few things that you're not too happy about. Let me know in the comments and we'll have a discussion about it. And then if there's any future video you'd like to see me make, let me know in the comments as well, and then I'll see if I can get around to making that sometime soon. So again, I thank you very much for watching this. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please like, subscribe and comment. I notice I have got a fair few subscribers who have subscribed recently. Thank you very much, you guys, for doing that. I hope you're enjoying the content and you'll stay with me for the upcoming future. So have a very good week up ahead, guys, and I'll see you next time. And remember, Nagash is